Today we're going to be doing Cloud Init. The problem is I don't know how much Cloud Init we're going to be doing. Cloud Init is like a really, really big, deep, dive rabbit hole if we want to go down into it. And that's all good, but we just need enough Cloud Init to get us some VMs up so we can put Kubernetes on there. So we're probably going to stick with that, and then that means we're going to be writing a script. We're going to be writing a Bash script. We could do it in Python, but I think I'm just going to stick with Bash for now. All the examples are in Bash. And we'll write a bash script that does the following. It's just going to go ahead and provision these things individually. It's basically going to be everything that we had in our Vagrant file from before. In fact, I'm going to just port that over into Bash. That is just some VMs that are there that we can reprovision anytime and take snapshots in them and snap them back to the original VM state. Now, what state we're going to save is still up for a question. Work both on Windows and Mac, given the fact that and on Windows, we have to have the EXEs at the end, right? So we should probably just write a function that goes and looks for it. Now, the path stuff is easy. The path is different on both, but we can adapt that and just say, hey, it needs to be in your path. But the EXE, we need to have something going down the path of, like, I was going to put, like, for example, I made this VM run thing, but this, like, detects the one and then does it, right? But I think we need something more generic than that, because if you do that for every command, that could be really annoying, and I don't want to do that. We need something more generic. Always a bad idea. And the second way is to force any command dependency to be called from a function that detects the distro and then, or I mean the OS, and then put architecture and puts a .exe at the end. That's a total fork situation going on. Yeah, so that's interesting because that way we have to use it. There's, we have to have significant differences between the OSs, and that would be enough to make it a separate script. Install for Kubernetes training that you just run. You just install VMware Workstation Pro and run the script. Boom. And then SSH into the thing and start working and do all your kubeadm. God damn. I mean, that is like the holy fucking grail of Kubernetes training. All right, so here we are. We've got our conclusion to the problem with running on WSL2, Mac, or Linux. We want to write a script that runs on anything. And it turns out the easiest thing to do is to, like, isolate the executables that you need and create variables for them and just add exe to the end of them if you detect Microsoft. The end. Suck on ELVM2. Don't give me that shit. It's why it's so much better to make a filter buffer of your own. It's just like 5 lines of code. set-euo pipe fail. So O is option pipe fail, which means if your pipe breaks and it's not there, you get to execute, that'll stop the execution. The E says if there's any error at all, stop executing. Otherwise, it does it and it's unexpected. And the U means anytime you use an unset variable, throw an error and stop it. Yesterday, somebody did. They put shell check in their code along with their disable lines and stuff like that. Which, by the way, this which thing is not a problem because I actually want to know whether it's an executable, not whether it's an alias or an executable. So that's bad on you, shell check. And then you just comment this out when you're done. Yeah, I definitely need it. It's like I can squeeze it and be happy. This is in my Amazon gift list. I need to remove it now so I don't get like another one. Thank you so much. I am so happy. This makes me this like, like a ball is kind of like doesn't really fit in your hand. The penguin like fits in your hand perfectly. So you're like strangling him. So you're like, yeah, you're like strangling him. So he fits perfectly in your hand. So you can strangle the shit. You can strangle the shit. Done. Yeah. This is like standard header stuff I think you should have personally, but whatever. Yeah, so we got our dependencies on there. Now it's time to actually get on to the main event here. Time to get on to the main event. I believe that was a mistake. They learned a lot of amazing things, and they're going to be able to do that for a long time. But I think preparing people to use a Linux laptop is not as valuable as preparing them to use what they have in the workplace. Bottom line. Bolts of it all, you can go read it. This is just passing that into standard input. And then if you want to know your current algorithm, you can go to etcpamd.password. And play around with that. But that's going to give us the file that we need to pass to the cloud. Yes, you can use xclip on WSL2. You just have to make sure you have this installed, this little gem here, which is called, what is it called? GWSL distro tools. That lets you use Xclip just like you always used before, and you can paste. A lot of people don't know that you can fold the case with the tilde. If you type tilde, it will change the case from lowercase to uppercase if you want to do that. And then that, it only works for ASCII, obviously, but that's kind of a nice little trick if you want to do that. Yeah, I saw an official hacker on free code camp the other day suggesting that they use nano instead of VI, and I just laughed my ass off. Good luck with that. Run along, script kitty. And not knowing that is a disservice to you. It's more important that I tell you this to your face right now than have you be the laughing stock of the Linux world. Really? I mean, I'm immensely grateful to all your help that you've been giving me, but my God, get the fuck off Nano. Get the fuck off Nano. Friends don't let friends use Nano. Come on, you're my friend. So get off of it. There. Here. This is what Unix people do, I'm afraid. I didn't make the rules. All right. This is regular Unix banter. If people call me a dick, fine. Feudal dependencies here. We need all this stuff installed. Curl QEMU IMG for the conversion between QEMU to VMDK. And make ISOFS, which turns out to be, I've done a video on this before, and the other one we used is not the same on Mac and Windows. So this one turns out to already be here. And that's the one we're going to use. Control. Somebody convinced me to start using function as a keyword again because it's greppable, and I agree it's much easier to grep. Forgot about that. So don't forget about that. Don't be me. Make sure you declare your associative arrays with -A, otherwise shell check will yell at you. Yeah, this is what's called an associative array. You didn't know, right? Bash 4 Plus has associative arrays. They're not multidimensional, but they're good enough. This has actually been pretty good. And the thing I like about it is it digs into a lot of recipes. It has gRPC. It covers generics. It's the first book I've ever seen to cover generics. I haven't read the generics section yet, so I can't say so. But if you don't know, if you're trying to use WSL2 on Windows, you can't use it with Cisco AnyConnect, which means that anything in my enterprise is completely useless. And somebody seems to have suggested there's a fix. There's a PowerShell trigger fix. But I don't know if this one's it. We're going to it's a different thing, right? Chapter 2, yes. Yeah, I would never use WSL2 with a VPN. Never, ever. It's basically super dangerous with a VPN. Yeah. It is not for beginners, though. There's a ton of not for beginners Go books. There is not a fucking single book for beginners out there that's up to date. And there hasn't been for 5 years. It's my biggest complaint about Go. The Go community is absolutely horrible at making material for absolute beginners. You want to see this complaint? Watch this. There. Now it says, hey, this isn't POSIX. Can't use it. Telling you, it looks at the shebang line. So if you want to change it, just change the shebang line, and shell check will do the right thing. People have been doing REST forever, and now they're just, it's like all about the API. I'm surprised that GraphQL hasn't taken off more, and I know why now, though, because it's too much. REST is usually just fine, particularly if you've got things like Swagger to help you out. So it's cool to hear that people are rewriting PHP and Go with REST APIs. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I do. I completely agree with you. This is the reason that I don't think GraphQL is taking off, because people are used to writing RESTful APIs in the Kubernetes world, and everything about it, all the cloud native stuff, is all based on REST APIs, very simple REST APIs on the front end side. Yeah, much easier to work with just JS and Go. It's just because they're one trick ponies. The people who don't want to learn Go are one trick ponies who just know JavaScript and nothing else. I hate to put it that way, but that's the way it is. They're like, oh no, we have to write some different language besides JavaScript. Never leave half your code unwritten and try to run it. It's a bad idea. A very bad idea. You can't have an empty function. You have to put the null operator there if you want to get rid of it while you're just working with it. Otherwise, it'll give you an error. The local dash A declares associative array. So this D is in the scope of the variable, and it calls the fill function. And the fill function can see D because it was called by the caller that can see D. And so this prints fine. But if you try to do D outside of it, it's not in the scope. And so the D thing prints an enter, nothing. Boom. Choice on something that I was going to make production for me, even in my personal life, I would make a totally different decision. I don't know if I would use Alma Rocky for my own stuff personally, but the reason I'm doing it here is because it needs to be compatible. Yeah. I go for a walk. How do I problem solve while programming? I go for a walk. I get away from it. I drink some coffee. I decompose the problem and get down to the base level thing. But mostly I get away from the problem and try to hash it out on paper. So another reason that Z shell is shit is it doesn't do name references in associative arrays. You can do associative arrays, C declare dash A, foo A like that, and do the thing, right? But then you can't refer to its individual names, so you can't iterate. Yeah, they like all my Z shell. That's the only reason. If you press most Z shell users, there's one of two reasons. This is a default on Mac because licensing, or they want only Z shell. And the Z shell team themselves made a public statement against all my Z shell. Said, please God, don't use it. That's the proper way for Z shell. That's not even close to actual shell. That's not even like remotely close. You've got to be kidding me. See this part right here? See this part right here? All right. See this part right here? This part right here. See right here. Yeah, I'm going to have to start using that. What a great idea. Here's why I think we should use cloud init images, and I'm going to make a big case for this. Everybody uses cloud init images. That means that if you can pull together a cloud init image instead of using your regular VM images, you benefit because you're dealing with stuff just like you would be dealing with it in the cloud. And after you get it, it's even more complicated. Just as in a non-intuitive way, it totally does. So Terraform, you can make the case. You can make the case that Terraform's single purpose in life is to block the common people from the complexity of cloud init, in my opinion. The use case for what we're doing right now is not just for training, but it's also for setting up and testing things without having Kubernetes installed. But we want to have as close as possible on our local VirtualBox system, something that we would replicate in the cloud without having the cloud expense. VirtualBox is its own type 2. That's how I have yes. And VMware is VMware Workstation Pro is a type 2 hypervisor. ESXi is a type 1. I read those words recently. Going to WSO2, I knew there were going to be a couple casualties. Vagrant, strictly speaking, isn't a full-blown casualty. It just got really seriously maimed. And I don't want to play with that anymore if I can get around it. It's like a really old tech. Yeah, if Mitchell doesn't have good things to say about Vagrant, then it's probably time to let it die and move on. And there's a lot of things you can do just with a plain old Go binary and cloud init now. And and Terraform, of course, and Ansible. That's where I would like to go for the future. This is some magic that takes all these variables, 6 them in an associative array, and then fills them into our lovely template here. That then produces, this kind of thing. So there's one right there. Network-config. That's a filter function. It runs a script and then replaces it with its output. Because they're awesome. If you haven't learned how to use Unix filter functions, you haven't learned Vim. 8 or 9 billion to buy GitHub, and has produced the most powerful, most useful Linux distro on the desktop, and invented 3D, doesn't get a fucking name in the acronym? What the fuck? Who made this up? I don't even think it ever was. Even in its heyday, Netscape doesn't fucking touch Microsoft. Not even close. And Facebook is in massive decline. Why isn't Twitter there? Come on. It's a dumbass acronym that nobody should use. Facebook is Meta, so you can't even call Fang it anymore. There you go. Basically, if you're saying the term fang right now, you're just proving how little you know about stuff. That was the thing. That's what we were saying. That's exactly what we were saying was the reason. So that's exactly what we were saying was the reason. So this is really the only reason it was left out. This is the true reason Microsoft was left out. And Microsoft should be there. It should definitely be there. No, you just stop making fucking acronyms. Can we just stop? Mango. Fact. Please, no. We can't go there. Fact. Yeah. Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. Yeah, that might work. I don't know. Airbnb, Alibaba. Oh my god, I love that one. Oh, Alibaba is like how many times bigger than Netscape? Did I say it? I said Netscape again, didn't I? Netflix, I meant. So I gotta make a clip. Yeah, just in case you're wondering, they've already figured this out. And when they first came out, they had parentheses, and it was just like a storm of parentheses, and then they went with brackets. They can't use bracket. I mean, they can't use angle brackets because of conflicts with the less than and greater than in the compiler. You can look that up. I'm going to talk about it again because it's so awesome. If you just add a shell check $0 at the top of your script, then every time you run your script, you'll get an automatic shell check until it actually works. Isn't that cool? And then you can just comment it out when you're done. Then you don't have to run shell check every time. It's like linting automatically at the beginning of your script. 45, 86. Stop the porn torrents. Yeah. All right, here goes the conversion. Good deal. It converted it. And now I have a code to copy over to do that. And then I can port all that over to a Go tool. We're done. That Go tool will be done by the end of the week. So I'm going to have both the Go, I'm going to have Fluff done. That's our Go tool. And we're going to have this tool down as well, since it obviously works. Yeah, it wasn't invented with the conventions and standards that have been established really well, which started with Ubuntu, by the way, I found out today, for CloudInit. So that's why it's way better than Vagrant, because it's building on a very well-established modern cloud-native standard. And in my key rack back here, but this is phenomenal. This is a massive achievement for me today, because I can now do entire kubeadm installs with all of these systems, and just have all those machines to go use anytime I want. Virtualization software above everything else. QEMU is rock solid too, but you can't use QEMU if you don't have if you don't have a Linux desktop. And if you work for any number of 90% of the companies in the United States, at least, you don't get the option of having a desktop that has it on it. This is the main reason I switched to Windows. One question when it comes to Windows or Mac: can you use a Linux desktop in your enterprise and not be fired? If you can, this is a no-brainer. Just go ahead and use it and go to town. If not, use WSL2 or a Mac. I'll make a quick clip here. So we have had a phenomenal day today. It's been quite long, but it's great. This is all up in my lab, rwxrob/lab on GitHub if you want to go look for yourself. And we'll see you soon.